This is Coda Radio, episode 143 for March 2nd, 2015. Hi everyone, and welcome to Coda Radio, Jupiter Broadcasting's weekly talk show taking a pragmatic look at the art and business of software development and related technologies. This episode is brought to you by our two fine sponsors, DigitalOcean and Linux Academy. I'll tell you more about those great sponsors as your show goes on. My name is Chris, and joining us every single week is our fired-up host on the East Coast, Mr. Michael Dominic. Hey there, Michael.
Misa back, and Misa here to sell you an iPhone.
Hello, everybody. Oh, here he is. There he is, ladies and gentlemen. It's been a few weeks. Gosh, I almost want to say it's been like a couple of months, actually. Well, welcome back, Jar Jar. It's good to see you. I'm sure you're excited about the new series underway, being filmed right now, I think, as we speak. You must be really fired up. Will you let Mike on the show, though, because I hate you. I hate you. Go get in a car accident.
Whoa now.
Hey, Mr. Dominic. How you doing, buddy? How you good? Because I want to give you an update, but I don't want, this is your show, so I don't want to be too aggressive. I don't want to be hogging things, but you got what? What?
Yeah, things are a little more towards the suboptimal side these days. But
yeah, that's where I was going. Look, so I'm gonna keep it clean this week, but I'm a little punchy. I got to tell you something. I haven't slept very much for the last few days. I don't know what's going on. I think I got hooked on some muffins that have too much sugar in them or something like that. I could not tell you, but I have not been able to sleep for about 2 days pretty solid, maybe 2.5 days pretty solid, and I'm getting a little crazy. I'm just getting a little crazy, but I'm good. I'm here. I'm not drunk, but if I sound drunk, sometimes I've noticed I've been using like the wrong words for things. So if I start calling you Bob or something, you'll understand, okay? That's where I'm at. And plus, I had a horrible weekend. Total disappointment, massive fail, and I want to tell you about it later in the show because I'm gonna blame everyone who likes Android, I think. How are you doing?
Well, Chris, have you ever you go on a trip?
Yeah.
To Southeast Asia?
No, I did. I did last Thursday after TechSnap go on a trip to get some acupuncture, and that was quite a drive. It was like a good solid 20 minutes away.
Wait, let me do a New Jersey reference that I think people will understand if they live near here. You ever drive to Elizabeth, inhale all the fumes? And, it's been like a week now.
Yeah.
Your trip to Elizabeth is over.
Yeah.
But you're still throwing up green stuff, and it's getting better, but there's this occasional flare-up you have to deal with. Get it out of here. That's where I am. And now you're like, okay, so I just left Elizabeth. I'm turning into the Hulk, but not in the good way. What do I do now? And it's like, okay, Newark, Camden, right? I mean, murder capital of the world.
I don't know if you and I can solve each other's problems. I mean, we're not in that space. Real talk right now. We're not in that space. But, we might be able to solve some listeners' problems.
Yeah, those lazy listeners. Let's do it.
I know. We're the ones with I can barely stand up. Yeah, and I do stand. I stand for the Coda Radio program. See, I'm standing. And I'm drinking water because I'm trying to stay hydrated. I don't even want to get into that. All right, so Daniel writes in. Let's focus on something that matters. Daniel says, "Hi, Chris. I think I first saw your show at Linux Fest Northwest back in 2011. I had no idea what was going on, but many years later, still a big fan. I watch Coda Radio and the Linux Action Show. Now I'm a master's student at Carnegie Mellon University in Information Systems Management, which is basically a technical management degree that covers lots of topics, like stats, software development management, machine learning, distributed systems, the norms. Anyways, I'm looking for a full-time gig and have been interviewing with a lot of large companies. A topic that I thought you might want to cover on the show is the technical interview process, which I think, more or less, is a broken process. I'd love to come on for a session to talk about it. Well, we should do a Mumble Room show about this one time. He says, a topic everyone is interested in at one point or another. Keep up the great work. Daniel Miller. So the technical interview process. I don't know where you're at on this. We've talked about this from time to time. Is there anything you really wanted to talk about in this realm, Mr. Dominic?
we've talked about it a few times. I think we kind of beat it to death. I just say it's obviously broken, right? Because you have 20 minutes to figure out if someone's competent or not. But I wonder, is it more broken than any other interview process? I mean, if you're hiring an accountant, isn't it like the same thing?
Because what I was just about to throw in your face is like, it's bad because the HR people and the hiring people, they're never technical. They wouldn't know if you're answering the right questions. They don't know what to ask you. But of course, that would be the same with anything that's really specialized. It could be AutoCAD. It could be QuickBooks. They're not going to be experts on any of that stuff.
Driving a semi, right? Like,
right.
I certainly don't know how to do that. But the other thing is, I wonder, is it better to get someone who's super technical but can't like survive in the organization, doesn't kind of mix well? I would probably say no, right?
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, I kind of think interviewing just sucks in general. It's bad for everybody. Nobody enjoys it.
Right. It's one of these things where you have to sell yourself, and then that's very stressful too. It's always much nicer when it can work out organically, which is not really the normal thing. But but sometimes this happens a little bit more often with open source projects, where an open source project just kind of starts as a side thing. It eventually gets a large enough base where there's a way to generate some revenue for it, and it becomes a job.
Right.
And then now all of a sudden it's a job, but maybe as it grows, like it becomes more than just one person, and you need to hire a couple of people. Well, a lot of times when a project gets to that size, where maybe you have to get from one person to maybe 5 people, those people generally just come in from the community where they've already been doing the work for a while. And you can apply that same thing. Like when we hired Rikai here, he had been a member in the community for a long time, creating apps for us, managing community stuff, and so. It wasn't really quite an interview process because we'd known him for like 5 or 6 or 7 years or whatever it was at that point. And so if open source projects and other community-based stuff has a little bit of an advantage there, whereas businesses where it's much more, somebody's coming in the door, that process, because that's not how people work. It's essentially, it's trying to accomplish something that's just not how you learn about people. It's just not how we work. But it's just not compatible with the business world, I think.
I also wonder, like, I don't know. I mean, to me, technical interviews make the most sense at the junior level when you want to make sure the person can, write a for loop. I don't know. It's not. I mean, I was about to say I don't think you need them after a certain point, but you definitely do.
Well, here's what I think's going to happen. I think maybe we should zoom out because we're getting. Here's the thing. Everybody knows this is broken. So eventually that means it's probably going to have to get addressed, because if everybody kind of openly acknowledges, okay, yeah, we kind of got a problem here, then it's in the business's best interest to fix it, because then they get better results, right? They don't like losing money, and hiring the wrong person is one of the most expensive things you can do as a business.
Oh, it's a huge mistake, especially if you don't fire them fast enough.
So this process is going to get fixed, and the only way I can really see how to do it, because if you're going in for a technical job, then a person should be evaluated on their technical merits. And that, to me, means portfolio. And to me, that means things like established GitHub profiles. And the reason why I say things like GitHub is because that's what's going to be in the common parlance once these people are going to look for these things, right? In fact, you could even, and maybe these might already exist. I've been out of the game for a while. But couldn't you even see like a hiring manager's like a research tool that automatically you plug in the GitHub user ID and it goes in and sucks in all their information about their GitHub stats and their projects, and they put it into a portfolio about the candidates that they're looking at? It seems like if that doesn't exist, it's going to exist pretty damn soon.
I could see that getting gamed so quickly.
Sure, yeah. But this is obviously, that's the thing, is whatever new thing that they go to will also have problems. That's the way it goes. But you're either going to have to go to something, and it seems like a merit-based sort of review process where you can look at code or even just look at activity on other projects and say, yeah, this person is somebody who walks the walk.
Well, let me ask you this, Chris. If you were to just say, you know what, drop a grenade, blow up JV tomorrow, and you had to go get a job, you wouldn't like go to a recruiter, right? You would get a job on some sort of referral or relationship, wouldn't you?
Yeah. I mean, to tell you the truth, though, I'm so focused on this that I have not nurtured any of those contacts. In fact, I've even neglected them to an extent when they've reached out and be like, hey, would you come in for a couple of days? Now I'm at the point now where I don't even respond because I've said no so many times. So I don't know, to tell you the truth. I think what I would probably do is take some of the boxes out of my garage and build a box fort and go live down by the river. To tell you the truth, I'm pretty much unemployable, I think. I mean, I have done this now, for a couple of years, and I just don't think I'm employable. I really don't. I could maybe what I would do is I would take this knowledge set and go do contracting and help people set this up, like radio stations set up live streams and.
Right. Well, I guess because you took that in a totally different direction. I was thinking like people who have experience, who've done a few projects, a little more senior. I don't think they're going through the whole recruiter process of needing to be screened out with FizzBuzz, right?
I follow. Yeah, right. Yeah. Because also, it used to be that you just kind of would become known too.
Right.
So in a way, you didn't really have to go through the regular screening process because people kind of knew you. You usually get referred at that level. Like, my friend so and so is looking for work and he'd be great here. It's usually at that level how you'll get hired, or even they'll seek you out.
That's kind of what I'm thinking. So is this? I mean, it's a little weird for you and I to answer it since we haven't had a job in, a while. Yeah. So maybe we would both go on Monster.com and be horrified.
Could you work a 9 to 5? I mean, there's elements of it that you probably would find soothing, right?
Well, I mean, a steady paycheck,
Yeah, I don't even
turn that down.
But people always say, "Oh, I got a steady paycheck." Yeah, they can fire your ass. They can lay you off. They can get bought out and downsize. I mean, that happened. I literally, the only reason I say that is because I worked at a place, and here was the line, because I'm an old fart, and I had a job during the .com boom and pop and all that, and the line that I was fed for like 4 years, maybe 5 years. I worked there for 7 years, so I'd say about 5 years. The line I was fed was, "We're not going to pay you as much as if you went down to Seattle, but we're 25 miles north." Okay, that was a good point. That's the number one reason why I took the job. Number 2. We've never laid anybody off in 25 years of being in business, so you have a stable job even though the .coms are failing all over the place. And number 3, you'll get nice steady wage increases for years. You'll get vested. You pretty much, as long as you do your job, you have a job for as long as you want. And then in my 6th year, they outsourced all of us, laid us all off except for the CEO happened to like me. So the CEO stepped in and saved my job, and I became a security. I got moved over to security, and everybody got laid off. Everybody. Some of them got hired by the consulting firm, and this was a company that told you you'll never get laid off here. You have a good steady paycheck. We've never laid a single person off in 25 years, and they laid off all of us. So I don't even buy the steady paycheck line anymore.
It's funny because I've been on both sides of that equation. First of all, it sucks for everybody. Well, maybe at a big company they care less. Like I can't see Larry or Sergey being like, "Oh, so sorry." They're not Asian. I don't know why I did that. Every time I say Sergey Brin, I always think of the guy. You ever see the guy from Huawei where he dresses up like Steve Jobs, like fake Steve? Oh, if you haven't seen this, Chris, you have to see.
No, I've seen the Huawei guy who looks like fake Steve Jobs. Yeah.
I always think of him.
I'm just trying to.
Always inappropriate.
Okay.
Send your hate mail to. Send it to me,
Alan. Okay.
Send it to me.
BSD now.
I will say that I do think you're right that the whole like W-2 JOB job thing isn't as secure as people think it is.
Yeah. I mean, what it really is for me would be so many things are no longer my problem. Because I actually think what I have now is more stable because like if it messes up, it's probably because I messed it up. And I'm not planning on messing anything up. Maybe that's a little arrogant, but that's currently my intention is not to mess things up. I just want to keep doing what I do, and as long as the audience likes it, then I think we're good. So I feel like this is actually more stable than anything else. But if I was at a job, the stability wouldn't be what it is for me. It would be the fact that I didn't have to pay for that desk. I didn't pay for those chairs. I didn't have to buy that mat. Those paper towels you're using in the restroom, I didn't buy all of those, right? It's all of those things that are no longer my problem anymore. The mortgage, the association fee, having to hire somebody to take care of the yard because I'm too busy doing a show. All of these things are my problem right now that don't help me make shows at all. That would, if I could just go work for somebody and be a podcaster, I would never have to think about any of those things.
So that's the thing, right? Like very recently, I spent more time on the phone or in Excel than I did in Xcode. Right? I mean, that's But then, Chris, wouldn't you become like a one-man consultant and just say, because yes, you still have all that invoicing crap and all that, buy the chairs, but you're buying one chair, right? You're buying one desk.
Yeah.
You're sending one invoice a month or two invoices a month?
Yeah, I guess so. I suppose so. I guess I would probably do that. Yeah.
I mean, what we could all do is make little Android-based game consoles, and sell them for $99. Oh God.
Oh, I like where you're going with this. And then maybe we could update them from every couple of years. We could just launch a new Kickstarter and have them fund it for us.
Yeah, I was doing something similar last night in Brooklyn. I had a tin cup and I was on the streets like this. Change, spare some change for an iOS developer, please.
Oh, Mr. Dominic, I don't believe you. I
used Jar Jar's accent the first time, but it really, people kept hitting me and it was weird. I got assaulted.
Out of here.
All right, let's do one more. Well, yeah, we have a Qt C++ email in from Brandon, and let's do this one real quick. Let's see what we can. I think we can get to this one. He says, "Hello, Chris and Mike. I'm a longtime listener of the show, subscriber to the subreddit, and a contributor even to Open Your Mouth .recipes. Awesome. I'm currently a software engineer for a large architectural company. The egg industry as a whole are stuck on an antiquated GUI platform called VT, or Virtual Terminals. These VT terminals are sanctioned by an ISO standard, which basically means you are limited to 400 by 400 or worse. Displays in vehicle cabs get stick figure graphics. A lot of people in our space want to move away from these IP67 related terminals, expensive, no economy of scale, in the vehicle cabs to consumer grade tablets, maybe running iOS or Android. And I think it is the future. However, they want to essentially be backwards compatible with the stick figure standard that ISO lays out for architectural tech. I wanted to know if you guys had any experience with Qt and C++ for GUI and cross-platform language and platform, if you have heard of if you've heard of the standard either. I'm not a huge fan of being .NET or C#, and I'm not a GUI developer in my previous job. However, I know there are a few diehard Qt fans in my office, and I never once heard it mentioned by anyone outside of the egg industry. Do you know of any thoughts on C++ Qt for cross-platform GUI development? Keep up the good work. Well, Brandon, that is actually a pretty popular use for C++ and Qt. It's definitely outside the egg industry. In fact, I would say, was it last year or this year? We said it was going to be a great year for Qt. And it's been on, Heaven's Revenge points out, it's been on embedded devices forever. So it's great. So it's at it would be at home in a vehicle. It would not be uncommon for software that would be featured in a vehicle's display system to be written in Qt. Mike, do you disagree at all?
Qt is interesting. I really, really got interested in it and then did nothing with it, as always.
Yeah.
Having said that, I hear a lot of really good things, and you could totally write that in Qt. Based on what I'm hearing.
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah.
I mean, I know one guy who's swearing on QML. I don't know why, and I take it with a grain of salt since he used to be a Java Swing developer.
I don't know. I've been kind of impressed by some of the apps written in QML that I've seen. I actually have been kind of like, holy crap, this is almost legit. And I'm waiting to see how these apps add out feature wise and performance wise as they add more features, but right now I'm pretty impressed in their early revisions. Mr. Dominic, can I tell you about something else I'm really impressed about? I mean, something I'm super impressed about.
Angela's lovely, true.
Yes. Oh, she is.
See what I did there? You saw what I did there, right?
Mother of my 3 lovely children, too, with, yes. She's home with 2 of them right now.
I want you to know that I bailed you out.
Yeah, and you know what Angela loves? You know what she really likes?
DigitalOcean.
She loves DigitalOcean. Yeah, you got it, Mike. Exactly. She loves DigitalOcean, and you will too. Go over to DigitalOcean.com. They're a simple cloud hosting provider dedicated to offering the most intuitive and easy way for you to spin up your own cloud server. And what do I mean by that? I mean you're going to get root access to a server that's up in the cloud that's crazy fast. It's run in Linux, based on the KVM virtualization platform, hooked up to all SSD drives, tier 1 bandwidth. You get root level access. You even get to see the boot up screen right all the way up as it boots with an HTML5 console. And you can get started in less than 55 seconds. And pricing plans start only $5 a month. That's going to get you 512 megabytes of RAM, a 20 gigabyte SSD, one CPU, and a freaking terabyte of transfer for $5. $5. Think about the value of that. It's crazy. And they have data center locations in New York, San Francisco, Singapore, Amsterdam, and London. Multiple data centers in those locations, and you can check out some pictures of them on their Instagram feed because they're the hotness. I'll tell you what else is the hotness. It's DigitalOcean's interface. I just love this so much, especially it's a treat for me, and I think maybe I can appreciate it a little bit differently than most because I have struggled over the years when I remember when virtualization came to the x86 platform. I actually originally started experimenting with virtualization on the PowerPC platform. And I've actually had some familiarization with virtualization on the System 390 platform. And I used very, very early versions of VMware and VirtualBox. And of course, when Zen was first integrated into the official Linux kernel, in fact, even before it was, all kinds of different systems and tools, different ways of managing virtual systems. I have never, ever seen a system that is so slick, so powerful, and so simple to use as DigitalOcean's dashboard. It is amazingly intuitive, and power users can replicate the functionality of the dashboard with DigitalOcean's straightforward API. And there's lots of really good apps built around this already, so you can take advantage of a ton of good stuff like managing it from your phone, your desktop, integrating it with your Puppet management infrastructure. It really just, there's so many things already taking advantage. You can just go grab them right now. But or you write something, and you can manage DNS. You can do one-click deployments of like GitLab, take advantage of Docker, Ruby on Rails. Go over to DigitalOcean, and here's the best part. You can try it out 2 months for absolutely free. Use our promo code CODERDIGITAL. It's one word, lowercase, CODERDIGITAL. When you check out, you get a $10 credit. Actually, it's not really when you check out. I say that because that's habit. But DigitalOcean does it cooler than most places. You just get to apply that to your account. And the reason why I like that is I've got my personal PayPal account that I'll use from time to time for Steam games. And I have set up a different PayPal account that we could use to fund the DigitalOcean droplets. And so from time to time, when I have a couple extra dollars in my Steam one, I transfer it over to the DigitalOcean droplet PayPal account, and then I just go apply the funds to my DigitalOcean account. And I just don't really have to worry about it. And the nice thing is you can go apply that promo code, CODERDIGITAL, just give you a $10 credit, spin up the $5 rig 2 months for free, or go try the $10 rig because there's a ton of horsepower, and really just like spin it up and then go apply updates and just look at that and tell me that alone isn't worth $5 for that experience right there. Seriously. But you're going to get a $10 credit. Coder Digital, DigitalOcean.com. Big thanks to DigitalOcean for sponsoring the Coder Radio program. Okay, we got two more emails, Mike, and one of them goes after you, and one of them, hold on. One of them wants to debate about why documentation is actually not all that evil. Which would you prefer? One's about you and JavaScript and how wrong you are, and one's about how documentation is amazing and everybody needs to STFU and step up.
Yeah, let's do the documentation one first. I think it's a lot faster.
All right, so what's so evil about documentation? JJ Meek writes in my previous iterations of my career, I did documentation as part of my job, such as writing or editing build instructions for a product. After leaving that world almost 2 years ago, I've been asked to do documentation of all the procedures and tricks in my group. Personally, I see it as a chance to improve my communication skills. I think most devs see it as evil that should be avoided at all costs. So, what makes documentation so evil? He loves it. And I'll tell you my exposure to documentation while you compose your thought there, Mr. Dominic, is a lot of times when you start as somebody who's going to come and do some system administration, if there's an existing IT person there, they almost always have you start on documentation every single time because they're always behind on it, and it is legitimately a decent way to learn the system because if you're good at like kind of working things backwards, you can usually figure out what needs to be updated or what isn't documented, and then you discover it. You go find out where all the passwords are at. You go do all the legwork. You go make the contacts with the employees that know that stuff. You establish those relationships. You build up your own information database and your own kind of mental layout, and it turns out to be pretty valuable, but it can sometimes be excruciating because you really just want to get down to work and make something or fix something, and instead it feels like paperwork almost. That's why I think documentation is maybe not evil, but a bit of a nuisance.
I kind of think you're on crack, but that's okay.
Really? Tell me about it.
Yeah. Why would you not want to write? I mean, obviously you don't need to document every line, but why would you not write documentation? Because what happens if you, I don't know, get a promotion, go to a different job?
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
Do you really want to screw the poor guy who has to take over your
documentation, though, in my estimation, is more than just comments. Because, for example, if I make a change to a Samba file server and I say, let's change the way every folder's create mask is set on creation, I would then put a little comment in there, change this blah blah from this CF and the date. And here's the problem, though. That's not really documentation because that's not available in a central spot that people can go look up when they need to know something. Once they kind of get to know the system, they would know to go check which comp file. The other thing is that's not really something you go back and update from time to time, or if it's like something in a wiki that's more centralized, that's something else. Plus, documentation isn't just what you're doing. It can also be how you do it, and that's an entirely different kind of documentation. That all, to me, is very tedious. Your face.
Your face. Well, okay, so like what I was using for documentation was like, for little scripts, private GIS on GitHub, right? If I needed to share a script with somebody, beautiful. That way it's shared to everybody on the team.
Yeah.
And, Markdown. I guess that's a little hipsterish, but I can't imagine shipping like a backend system without some sort of documentation.
Yeah, for sure.
Unless it's super just, CRUD, right? Super just basic CRUD.
Usually, what I find works best is a combination of work notes, inline documentation, either in code or config files, and then like some sort of like something central. I've used, I think it's called Goby. What's it called? It's like GOBBY or something. It's a collaborative editor. I can't remember what it's called now. Yeah, Goby. This is really cool. If you haven't checked this out, instead of using Google Docs, you install it on a server, so it's all on your LAN, and then there's a front-end native client, and I've used this a few times for documentation. The reason why I like this is, remember how I hate web apps?
Well, everybody hates web apps.
Yeah, so this isn't a web app. This is a native app. It's got a Windows, Linux. I think there's a mobile apps for it. And it's called Goby, GOBBY.github.io if you want to check it out. And there's still an active development, which is nice too. And I've used this. It also has built-in integrated chat. So people like I've been back at the office, at my office, and I've had a client that was in the server room, and they can bring up the documentation and they can ask me questions about the documentation in line. So it's pretty neat. So this for me was how I did my documentation. And getting something that was not in a web page, something that did integrated collaborative editing. It has zero conf support, only on Linux though, but the nice thing is that then everybody just auto-discovers each other. It has ACL, so you can make sure you can lock it down. And it's encrypted, the connection to the client and the server. And you can see who's doing changes, and there's editing where each person gets their own color and stuff like that. So it's neat. It's a good tool, and it's great for documentation. And it makes documentation, in my estimation, less evil. I'm not like you, Mr. Dominic. I don't get all hot and bothered when it comes time to sit down and write up a good doc. Whoa there.
I'm just breaking everything. It's because you mentioned Linux twice.
Too much?
Yeah, in fact, my dogs, my wife, they all hate Linux.
Do you want to do the JavaScript one, or do you want to move into our
let's do JavaScript. All
right, so Simon writes in.
We might have to end here because I have, unfortunately, to do something at 4, but that's fine.
Oh, okay. All right.
I'm sorry, Chris. I'm in demand these days.
Yeah. Simon says, hi, Michael and Chris. Boy, I had so many. Oh, okay. Well, I'll save them for next week, so we'll have more. I get where Michael's coming from when he criticizes JavaScript. For the current corporate developer, you ideally want something like C# or Java, a huge ecosystem with a strong focus on idioms that change rarely and guide him or her to build his app in a maintainable way. On the one hand, Michael is right when he says that one can make a horrible mess with JavaScript and you have a high risk of a technical debt. On the other hand, there are valid business reasons to use JavaScript that you just cannot ignore, Mr. Dominic. Cross-platform. The experience may vary, but at least one will be able to access the app. Built-in software distribution, built-in and automated software update distribution, and different built-in and implemented networking protocols. I would also argue that you will not have a talent problem if you choose JavaScript, because the sheer number and amount of people who wrote a line of JS once, you'll have to dig through some mud, though. But there's a lot of them. Beneath the hype of these benefits, they are real. Someone in the position to choose the technology just has to do his job. Neither can he dismiss JavaScript nor just do with it. You have to assess whether the benefits outweigh the risks in this particular case, which they do in many cases. Keep up the good work. Also, he thinks it's ironic that the Rails advocate is mocking other frameworks for doing magic behind the curtains. Zinger.
So that's a fair point.
Okay. All right.
I don't hate JavaScript. I just hate Node developers.
What about his argument that JavaScript is a good idea because a lot of people know JavaScript?
Yeah, VBasic 6 is a good idea for the same reason.
Okay, what about the fact that it has built-in mechanisms to do updates to the software? You can go to the web page, you just push out a new version, everybody's on the same version, it's super quick.
That's not a JavaScript feature, that's a web platform feature.
Yeah, okay, all right. Well, your face.
Well, so it's funny, right? JavaScript, in the next version of, ECMAScript 6 coming out now, that's going to be far less terrible. But will people follow it, and how is that? It's kind of the PHP problem, right? Like there's so much crap out there already that there's nothing that they can do.
Do you have 5? Because I have one more thing I wanted to throw at you before we wrap up.
I've got 5. Let's do it.
All right. Okay. So this one, and this is good. I want to get this on record, especially because by the time we talk next week, the Apple Watch will be announced.
Go ahead.
So, all right, but real quick, Linux Academy, this is our last sponsor this week. Go over to linuxacademy.com/coders. You can go get the Coder Radio discount. Go check these guys out because they have some really big stuff coming up really soon, and you're going to want to be in it when they announce that. They're always adding new content, and that's why the subscription model works so well. You can choose from 7+ Linux distributions. They'll automatically adjust the courseware. They have courses on everything Linux. I mean, really everything Linux. Even if you've been a Linux user for a long, long time, you can get some refreshers on stuff. They have the whole AWS stack there. You can really get comfortable with that, do scenario-based training, OpenStack, virtualization, Docker, rsync, the whole DevOps category. I really think you'll be also go check out their Python course. I was just checking that out. You're going to be pretty impressed by that, and their Ruby, the introduction to Ruby on Linux. Good stuff. They're really getting this built out in a way where, depending on how much time you have available, a little bit or a lot, you can take advantage of Linux Academy and you'll get value out of it. You only have a little bit of time. They have learning plans. You set your availability. They'll customize a plan for you. And then you have a lot of time sometimes. You open it up, boom, turn it on, and you just go as fast as you want. They also have live streams. You can ask the educators questions while they're doing the live streams, and a very active community. A lot of them are Jupiter Broadcasting members too. So go to linuxacademy.com/coders. Go look at all their good stuff. Go dig around, try it out for a little while. Go look at their news feed. You're going to see they're talking to members about some of the neat stuff they're working on. I think your jaw is going to drop when they announce it. I got a little tease. linuxacademy.com/coders. And a big thanks to Linux Academy for sponsoring the Coder Radio program. So, Mr. Dominic, really quickly, I think this is a big deal. So it looks like we have 1 million people walking around with Android Wear watches. So the number of Wear watches is based on some numbers that were ran late last year. Now they're re-looking at sales numbers, and they're also looking at apps downloads. 5 million Google Wear apps have been downloaded from the Play Store. So Google is sitting around 1 million watches sold. Good chance that Apple will probably break that in the first weekend of the Apple Watch sales. Your last prediction, this is your last chance, does Apple introduce something new about the Apple Watch? Is it going to be a success? Is it going to be a flop? Go.
Are they going to introduce something new? Probably not. Is it going to be a success? Probably a qualified success.
Could you see yourself being tempted to write an app for it?
Yes.
Oh. Well, maybe we'll talk about that more next week after it's announced.
Next week.
All right, Mr. Dominic. So dun. All right, you're a busy guy, so yeah. We are discussing moving the time, but it's hard because everybody's busy. But we are discussing so that way we can give ourselves more time for the show. We'll update you guys when we figure that out. Life is busy. But Mr. Dominic, maybe people need a little more of you. Is there somewhere they could go throughout the week to get a little more of you?
Actually, they can't go to dominicm.com because I suck and forgot to renew the domain.
That's cool. What about Twitter?
They can go to Twitter at Dumanuco.
At Dumanuco. There you go. You can follow me on Twitter, too. I'm Chris LES on Twitter. It was pretty cool. You can follow me and find out about live shows and stuff. Oh, join us live, won't you? We do the show Mondays right now at noon Pacific, 3 p.m. Eastern over at jblive.tv. Go to jupiterbroadcasting.com/calendar to get that in your local time zone. And don't forget to contact us. Go to jupiterbroadcasting.com/contact and send us in your feedback. All right, everybody. Thanks so much for tuning in this week's episode of Coder Radio. See you next week.